Good afternoon, everybody. This is Christopher Bennett here with the National Service in Slidell, Louisiana, and this is your weekly weather briefing for December 30th, 2020. Main concern is going to be this severe weather system tomorrow, so we'll get into it shortly. All right, here's your situational overview right now. The main concern, again, is that system coming through tomorrow and tomorrow night. It's going to probably impact many people's New Year's Eve celebrations, especially trying to light off some fireworks tomorrow evening. Mother Nature wants to provide her own set of fireworks as well, it looks like. We do have the entire outlook area that is in a severe weather risk, either enhanced or a slight risk. The Storm Prediction Center earlier today upgraded about half of our area, so much of southeast Louisiana and all of southwest Mississippi, into the enhanced risk for severe weather. Some other concerns are some pretty strong winds right now near the extreme southeast Louisiana coast. Do have a wind advisory that's going to expire pretty soon, around 5 p.m. today. But it's blowing pretty good out there. It's also blowing pretty good across the lake and along Lake Pontchartrain and the Causeway. And then also with these strong winds, what it's also doing is it's pushing water towards the coast, especially coastal Mississippi right now, where tides are starting to increase. We'll get into that a little bit later. We may need a coastal flood advisory for portions of coastal Mississippi, maybe in some areas of coastal Louisiana for tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, especially tomorrow night during high tide. And then after this system moves through tomorrow night, we look to be pretty quiet actually for the next 6 days. Maybe a little cloudy or even dreary this weekend. It can't completely rule out a few light showers with another little weak, and I say weak cold front, being very loose with the term cold front Saturday night. Not expecting really any change in the air mass, so it's just going to be kind of cool this weekend. But it could be cloudy, maybe even a little dreary at times. But for the most part, it'll be no impacts. It'll be pretty quiet this weekend, and it'll be quiet as we move into next week. Start to moderate a little bit more, warm up some, and then it looks like our next cold front could be sometime Wednesday, maybe Wednesday night, Thursday next week. So let's get into the meat of our issue right now. This is the severe weather outlook for tomorrow from the Storm Prediction Center. As I mentioned earlier, we had the entire outlook area in a slight risk. Well, then the Storm Prediction Center upgraded a good portion of our area, so most of southeast Louisiana and all of southwest Mississippi, into this enhanced risk. Their concern is that the risk for tornadoes is a little bit higher than what they thought earlier. There is going to be a lot of shear. Do have this line that's going to come through during maybe as early as the late afternoon hours, but it's now looking more like it's going to be during the evening across our area. So it could push into, right across the Atchafalaya Basin just as we move into the evening hours tomorrow. There's also the potential for some storms out ahead of this as a kind of a weak warm front that's going to be moving to the north and northeast across extreme southeast Louisiana and coastal Mississippi, kind of tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening time frame. Any of these storms that develop, if they're able to become what we call rooted near the surface and can become strong to severe, being near that warm front is going to provide a little extra potential for quick spin up. Some of these storms have become tornadic. We'll have to keep a close eye on it. That's not the greatest risk right now, but it is a risk. However, that line that moves through during the evening and kind of overnight hours is our biggest concern. I do want to mention this, though, is that this isn't a slam dunk forecast. There's actually a lot of question marks here and there. There is the potential for this to be a pretty significant event. There's a lot of energy, a lot of ingredients going into this event that could make this for a pretty impactful severe weather event. However, with severe weather, you usually need kind of everything to kind of come together to get that potential, and all it takes is one or two things to really mess everything up and not see anything. And this system actually has a pretty good potential of what we would call underperforming. There's all kinds of little issues that could go on that could cause the system to not maximize its potential. However, there's a lot that's going for it, and if it is able to, see its potential, it could be a pretty interesting evening across our area. So that's why this upgrade to the enhanced risk, and that's why we're kind of keeping a really close eye on it, because we'd rather be hedge on the greater risk than instead of just completely ignoring it, because there is that potential for pretty significant event tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. I just want to make sure that you all know that there is also that chance that it could underperform. Like I said, there's a lot of little issues. Don't want to get into too much of the meteorology, but there are some things that we're kind of keeping a close eye on it that may hold things back. So we'll just keep an eye on it again throughout the rest of today, tonight. You'll have multiple updates from the Storm Prediction Center and our office to get more information. Kind of that time frame I was talking about earlier, there's that potential of two different episodes. The first being the that warm front we were talking about moving to the northeast. You could see we're gonna see showers tomorrow afternoon and some thunderstorms develop in the afternoon across southeast Louisiana and then pushing into coastal Mississippi. That'll probably occur during the mid-afternoon hours. So from around you look like the I-55 area towards New Orleans and Boothville, probably start seeing activity around 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. That activity could become a little stronger as we move into the later afternoon hours and the early evening hours, especially as it pushes towards the Pearl River area and then coastal Mississippi. I'm not expecting too much from that, though. However, there is the potential that a few of those storms could become strong or even severe, maximize some of that shear, and could become tornadic, also provide damaging wind gusts. So we do need to keep an eye on that activity. However, the main player right now is our cold front and our line that's going to be moving through kind of the evening and overnight hours. It looks like the line should move probably start developing across southeast Texas and southwest Louisiana, kind of midday, maybe even as early as tomorrow, late tomorrow morning, but midday tomorrow, and then the early afternoon hours, and it'll continue to push east, and it should approach that Baton Rouge area. So if you look at the graphic right there, there's three different locations we're kind of highlighting. Location number one, which includes the Baton Rouge metro area and Homa, is kind of our area that we've got the greatest concern for severe weather, because that's the area that's got the best potential of that line being its strongest at that point in time. It's going to come through early enough in the evening to maximize wind stability we have out there. It'll have the best chance of seeing the strongest energy and forcing from kind of our mid and upper level systems in that area, and also has the best chance of seeing the strongest shear during the late afternoon, early evening hours. So all of that kind of comes together. So it's got the best chance of seeing the strongest storms with the line. The line is anticipated to weaken as it moves east. Weaken, but not necessarily become weak. It still has potential to produce strong and severe weather as it moves all the way across our area. So you're looking at the second area, the area number 2, which includes Macomb, both north and south shores of Lake Pontchartrain. So that would be the New Orleans metro area, and then of course like Covington, Slidell, Hammond area. We're looking at those showers kind of in the mid, late afternoon hours, and then early evening hours. Well, the line, though, looks like it's going to kind of approach during the mid-evening, maybe even late evening hours, and then continue pushing off to the east, possibly finally moving out of the state of Louisiana after midnight, maybe as late as 1 a.m. tomorrow. And then Section 3 is mainly coastal Mississippi and Pearl River County. We're watching that area. The first area of activity looks to be kind of maybe as early as late afternoon hour, but those showers and thunderstorms associated with that kind of warm front look probably to be more of the evening time frame. And then that line looks to be around midnight and then through the early morning hours on Friday. So we're just going to keep a close eye on that line. Again, the line looks like it's got the best potential producing severe weather in our western half of the area, and then it should slowly weaken as it pushes east. However, the potential for severe weather is there for all of our outlook area. Looking at our storm total rainfall, this could give you kind of an indication of why we're a little unsure about tomorrow. This is the rainfall potential for the next 7 days, and again, that's 7 days. Most of our rainfall is going to come from this system, so you're looking at most of this rainfall occurring Thursday afternoon through Thursday night. And if you look, there's a pretty good bit of rain to our northwest, northwest of Alexandria towards Shreveport. And if you look at the southeast in this picture, there's a good bit of rain kind of in the Gulf of Mexico, along South Alabama, Panhandle of Florida, and in South Alabama coast. Also, a little bit stronger rainfall in coastal Mississippi, whereas that minimal rainfalls over southeast Louisiana and southwestern, south central Mississippi. Why is that? Well, that's one of those potentials that could lead to the system underperforming. Something we call in the meteorological community, we call what we call a dry slot. So you get this area of drier air, and the thunderstorms focus kind of to our northwest and to our southeast. And basically, there's this area where there's very little rain. So we're kind of in that zone, especially given the track of this system. The other issue we got to watch out for is if we get a lot of activity to develop over the Gulf Coast, and especially on the Gulf of Mexico, that will also what we call cut off the moisture. So it would allow storms to really not get going over southeast Louisiana. So again, there's a few of those little failure modes that we're keeping an eye on. But as you can see, rainfall is not the biggest concern. Maybe as you get towards coastal Mississippi, and the reason is because those showers and thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon, more so tomorrow evening, will provide a good bit of rain early, and then you get the line to move through, provide additional rainfall. So you could see 1.5 to 2 inches across coastal Mississippi with locally higher amounts, whereas most of the area is probably going to see about 0.5 inch to 1.5 inches with locally higher amounts. That said, doesn't mean we're not expecting heavy rain with any of these thunderstorms. All of these thunderstorms that move across the area will have the potential to produce heavy rain in a short time frame. The good thing is that it looks very progressive, so we shouldn't get widespread heavy rain. So going into the tides, mentioned earlier, we have some pretty strong southerly and southeasterly winds currently over the Gulf of Mexico and in coastal Louisiana and into coastal Mississippi right now. So what you can see is that's starting to push water towards the coast. And if you look at this image right here, the blue line is what we call astronomical tide. It's what the normal tide, what it's supposed to be if there was no weather involved, no wind, no pressure, just what it is caused by the sun and the moon. So it's strictly driven by gravity. Whereas you look at that red line, which then becomes kind of gray and black, the red line is what we call the observed tide. And then the black line is what we're forecasting with that kind of shade of gray, a probability or a range. So it could be as high as this or as low as this. Well, if you look towards Friday at 00, what we call 0Z, you'll start seeing those tides really ramp up, especially across Waveland and Pascagoula. Those two areas right there have the best potential of seeing some impacts from the higher tides. You look to the other graph here on the right would be Shell Beach. Shell Beach will also be above normal, but you see that line's right below that HAT, which is high astronomical tide. When you start getting the tides that get above that, that's when you start seeing some more issues. And we have those areas that we normally have problems with. Shell Beach was one of them, but the good thing is the wind is pushing kind of away from it. However, Waveland, Mississippi tends to have quite a bit of issues with high tides, and we are keeping a close eye on this. So we may need to have a coastal flood advisory out. We have some time. High tides will occur again tonight, probably near midnight across coastal Mississippi. And as you look at the graphic right there, it said it's going to be low enough below the HAT or high astronomical tide, so we shouldn't have any real issues. There may be some very minor issues in some areas. However, tomorrow night looks to be the biggest problem, and it's going to give the forecasters another shot tonight to kind of look at stuff more in depth and find out if we need to get a coastal flood advisory out for a few areas. The 6 to 10 temperature outlook right now, though, one thing to point out is that we are in a progressive pattern still. We've been in kind of this progressive pattern for like almost a month now. However, we're now starting to see what we call these Pacific cold fronts. We had that one really good cold front, maybe even classified kind of as an Arctic cold front right before Christmas. It was really a good chunk of cool air, but it moved pretty quick. That's what we're in. We're in a progressive pattern. So these air masses are moving in and moving out, moving in and moving out. Well, now we're kind of getting the next few cold fronts are going to be weak, or what we call like those Pacific cold fronts, which there really isn't a big drop off in temperature. There may be it'll be cooler per se, but we're not expecting anything really cold right now. And the potential right now looks like we're going to stay probably above normal as we go into the mid to late next week and maybe into next weekend. And that's the outlook right now from the Climate Prediction Center. Looking at the rainfall outlook, one thing I do want to apologize, kind of ignore that August 19th to 23. That didn't get removed earlier. Not sure why. However, everything else in there is accurate. As you can see, that's a very light green, or we call 33%. Basically, that there's only a slightly better chance of seeing above normal precip than there is normal or below normal. So they're not really confident in either direction. And the main reason is, again, because we're very progressive. We're not allowing the moisture to really build across the area. And then with these fronts, they're also not very strong. So we're not going to see a ton of rainfall with them. However, with the fronts constantly coming through, even if they're weak, we should see some light rain across the area. So that's why they got maybe a slightly better chance of seeing above normal precip. Overall, though, we look to be pretty low impact wise after tomorrow and tomorrow night. So again, summary of impacts. Main concern again is our New Year's Eve system, especially during the kind of afternoon hours and the evening and overnight hours. Again, please have a form of multiple forms of getting warnings. If warnings go out, know the difference between a watch and a warning. If we issue a severe thunderstorm watch or a tornado watch, that just means conditions are favorable for those storms to develop. If we issue a warning, that means that either one of a few things has occurred. Either radar looks like the storm, in our interpretation, we think it's severe or it's tornadic due to radar, or we are getting reports that people are receiving damage or have seen a tornado. So that's just something to keep in mind. Make sure you know the difference between a watch and a warning. If you do get a warning, make sure you have an area to take cover. There could be quite a few people that are out and about tomorrow night. Pay attention to the weather. Lightning is nothing to play around with. Everyone's always concerned with tornadoes, but straight line winds are nothing to play around with. Understand that, and make sure you have a really quick route to get somewhere safe if warnings do come out. I already talked about the tides earlier and how we're looking at higher than normal tides, especially across coastal Mississippi. Portions of southeast Louisiana, we'll keep an eye on it, but right now they don't look to be nearly as high above normal, so we're not expecting any impacts right now. However, we'll keep an eye on it to see if the winds are a little bit stronger and the tides pushing a little bit more than right now that are forecast. After this system moves through tomorrow and tomorrow night, we look to be pretty quiet for the next 6 to 7 days. We do have a few more fronts that are coming through. It looks like a really weak cold front on Saturday night, and then our next cold front after that would be kind of Wednesday, maybe late Wednesday, early Thursday. The one on Saturday, we may get a few little light showers. However, I wouldn't be surprised if we stay dry. Just probably going to be pretty cloudy throughout the weekend. And then the next best chance for rain will be that next cold front Wednesday into Thursday. So thank you again for joining us. Hopefully this was informational for you. Have a happy new year, and again, follow us on any of your social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Give us a like if you like this video, and stay weather alert. Watch out for tomorrow in case we do issue watches and warnings. Have a great day.